They went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people.
Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasants Perspective. I was so on it, and I didn't unmute my mic or turn my camera on. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Glad to have you joining us this morning. We got the stream started about 45 seconds early because yesterday the stream cut off early. I don't know. Complete and total internet blackout yesterday, apparently. I'll tell you what. It's so frustrating dealing with, like, internet technology things. It's one thing when you can just like unplug your computer or hit reset, but when it's like the internet and things that are just way too complicated for me, like way over my head, totally can't flush, call me, I'm the septic guy, I'll figure it out, right? But internet doesn't work. I don't know, push the little button that says reset on the back of the router a few times and what are you gonna do? Oh man. Anyways, so that was my yesterday. Apologize for those of you that stuck around for the private stream, and then we got a couple minutes into it, and the thing went and froze out on me. So don't know what the deal with that is, but oh well. Okay, I wanted to start out this morning listening to this video. It's from Robert Kennedy Jr., and it's from when he was on the campaign trail, and I think it's worth listening to. This is one of those like, if the delivery of this speech was in a different location, this could be a very, very impactful speech. This is kind of one of those speeches that I'd say, write this one down and fold it up and put it in with your Federalist Papers, keep it with your founding father documents as to understanding the nature of government. And again, RFK Jr. saw both his uncle and his father be politically assassinated. So he gets it. He really does.
What we're seeing today is what I call turnkey totalitarianism. They are putting in place all of these technological mechanisms for control we've never seen before. It's been the ambition of every totalitarian state from the beginning of mankind to control every aspect of behavior, of conduct, of thought, and to obliterate dissent. None of them have been able to do it. They didn't have the technological capacity. Today, the mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide. Within 5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply. Every right that you have is transformed into a privilege contingent upon your obedience to arbitrary government dictates. It will make you a slave. And what do we do about this? What do? We resist. I'm going to tell you 3 rules that you all need to know and memorize. Number 1, every power that government takes from us, it will never relinquish voluntarily. Number 2, every power they take from us, they will ultimately abuse to the maximum extent possible. Number 3, nobody in history of the planet has ever complied their way out of totalitarian control. Every capitulation is a signal to the oppressors to impose new forms of torment or torture or compliance or obedience. Every time you comply, you get weaker. Bullies cannot be appeased. It just encourages them to new forms of torture and torment. Every time you say yes, you're getting pushed back to a weaker position. That's why we need to resist today.
That's why we need to resist today. What a great speech. So this is an ancient theme, right? This idea of the free man and the slave, and the master trying to control his slaves, right? It's an ancient theme. This is a theme that finds itself present in ancient scriptures. This is a theme that finds itself present in middle-aged writings. This is a theme that finds itself present in our sci-fi fiction today, right? I mean, isn't this the whole thing with Star Wars, the Empire versus the Republic, right? Free versus slaves. So RFK Jr. is really giving us a good roadmap here. And Frazier mentions in the chat about January 6th, people getting put on no-fly lists. The answer to that is yes, we did get put on no-fly lists. In fact, I'm going to talk about that here a little bit later in the show when I share that specific video talking about January 6th. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go sit at I'm not sure what kind of event it was. It was a services event for the county. It was like all the different available programs and services from county to nonprofits. And it was like a convention event thing. I put up a table. So I went to that to fill in for my wife at leftbehindwithout.org, right? She's out of town, so I had to go and sit this booth. Totally happy to do it. It's my pleasure to go do that, right? To think that I could help a kid maybe doing that is significant. So I'm sitting in this booth, and as people come by, there's a banner talks about 1 out of 12 kids will be affected by incarceration. Their parents will be incarcerated. 1 out of 28 kids currently has a parent that's incarcerated. I mean, these are stunning numbers. And it's interesting watching people's body language as they walk by the banner and they read it, and their eyes kind of like, wow, it's a lot of people. And over and over and over again, as I was talking to them across this table, it came up, yeah, you don't really know how significant the problem is with intergenerational incarceration or the criminal justice system or anything until it touches you. And I always think about this amendment we have, the Third Amendment, that says that they can't quarter soldiers in your home, right? The founding fathers thought it was so important, and they baked this constitution. They're like, oh yeah, and by the way, no soldiers in the houses. Like, for us, when we study history, we view that as kind of like this throwaway amendment. Like, it seems obvious, you don't want to have a garrison in your house. What the heck? Of course, your front room's not a barracks. Seems like almost obvious. Things like freedom of speech to us, we take for granted today. Like, it's just inherent. We were born with it. That was like a novel concept 250 years ago. Okay. Freedom of speech. Are you kidding me? You can't speak out against the king or the current warlord. So novel idea, but this idea of not quartering soldiers in the home. If you're just a regular American sitting out there somewhere in, Southern Virginia or Northern Georgia or, on the coast of Rhode Island, the idea of quartering soldiers in your home is foreign. You live in the country. There's no active conflict or battle around you. But for those people who lived in New York or lived in Boston, the quartering of soldiers in the home was almost what broke the loyalist loyalties to the king. Imagine yourself, a young man in his mid-30s. He's got a teenage daughter at home, and then a young daughter that's, just about to become a teenager, and you've got a cute, beautiful woman back at home, and you're heading to your blacksmithing job. And upstairs in your house are 2 British privates, drunk from the night before, vulgar, crude, far from home, no accountability, don't like the Americans very much. And you're leaving these 2 soldiers, these 2 uncouth men in your home with your teenage daughters and wife. You don't know how tyrannical and oppressive policies like that can be till they reach out and touch you. Okay. Eric Swalwell was on CNN, and he's giving warnings to people who are working in the Trump administration and people who support Donald Trump that the Democrats are going to be back in power and they're going to come for you. And this echoes what Trump had said about them, and it echoes what Chuck Schumer had said about going after the intelligence agencies. They're going to come back from you. The tit for tat, the back and forth. Listen to this. It's crazy.
Well, first, we are making it clear that we're going into the majority a year from now. We have every intention to do that. And so we will bring oversight, accountability. We will subpoena the Department of Justice, but also private actors who have done these drug deals with the administration, college campuses, entertainment companies, law firms. And so accountability is coming. And so one, it's all coming out. Two, I hope that deters people from doing more of these deals, these one-offs with the president. One other point, though, on Comey, Kate, this happened when Donald Trump was president. So if you're trying to tell me this is not politically motivated, the statement that they're referring to where he allegedly lied, Donald Trump was president. So why didn't you indict him then? Well, first,
I love how both sides will do this. They discount the deep state's role, like the deep state doesn't have a vote in this. Why didn't you indict him back then? Does anybody think that Trump had control of the DOJ in Trump 1.0? Jeez, man, why didn't you do it back then? Well, he didn't have the tyrannical leadership that he has now. Okay, so what RFK says is that any tool that you give to government will be used against you. This is what we're watching in live time. The tools that we've given to the government to fight corruption, to fight crime. First of all, they took a back seat for many, many years, but now they have these tools, these surveillance tools. One of the things that's so disturbing to me is I hear these reports that individuals aren't getting subpoenas, right? Like, oh, my bank accounts haven't been subpoenaed. This hasn't been subpoenaed. But then I sit back and I think about it for a second. And I think, it's interesting. When I got subpoenaed, I didn't really get subpoenaed. Facebook got subpoenaed. Twitter got subpoenaed. Google got subpoenaed, right? Apple got subpoenaed. They all got subpoenaed, and I didn't know it. They were rifling through my stuff before I was aware of it. So again, we give them these tools. They're going to use them. They're going to use them. In fact, I'll just show you this right here. We'll jump ahead here. So in essence, to these tools that they'll use, another thing that I often talk about, and this is, again, the more context you understand around this topic, the more the inconsistencies in government, where we look at government, even at a local level, and go, how does this serve the people? Okay. It's the logic of something. A clock, like a nice Swiss engineered clock, it may not tell the right time, but it's going to turn the gears, right? It's going to do the logic. It might not give you the results you want. The time might not be set correctly, right? And that's what happens with our government agencies. We build a nice Swiss watch. Everything's supposed to work. Piece of paper goes from this desk to this desk. It gets signature here, signature there. Somebody approves this, somebody approves that. Bada bing, bada boom. Everybody's equities. Everybody's safe. Everybody's good. We're all happy. But then, if somebody doesn't come in and set the time, that clock is going to churn, and the logic of it is going to give us something that we don't want. This is what happens all the time. And for someone like me, who has this weird innate ability to kind of see the logic of something like that, I go nuts. This is what happens in the family courts in the United States. Family courts, right? We've given them these tools over our families to help in a divorce and all this kind of stuff. It's created this scenario because part of funding and creating these family courts, it goes along with gun control. There's a relationship between family courts and gun control. And on top of that, the court system gets reimbursed. The state gets reimbursed for child support. So let me give you how this works. If I am in a custody situation and I am employed and I have total capability and responsibility to care for the kids, okay? If I take those kids over, I don't pay child support, right? Because I have custody of them. The state gets a matching child support payment. So they know if they give custody to the worst parent that can't provide for the kids, now I have to pay child support. I'm going to move heaven and earth, borderline go bankrupt to pay that child support. And then the state's going to get a matching check. And if they don't, they still get paid, right? And then they get to chase after me, and that creates court fees and stuff like that. So the logic of how they've set up the family courts and how the incentives are creates a situation where it is not serving we the people or our children. That is for sure.
There's a federal law called Title 4D. It was passed in the late 1970s. This is the cause of the divorce explosion in the 1980s and the creation of, there were no family courts in the early 1980s. They didn't exist. They were created specifically because of Title 4D. Title 4D provides for matching funds for the collection of child support. So I don't know.
Okay, so Title 4D provides matching funds for child support. There's your logic. There's your incentive, your carrot, if you will.
About Virginia, but I know about Texas. In Texas, it's $500 million. It's $480 to $520 million per year. The more child support that's issued, the more money the state gets in reimbursements. The more it collects, the more it gets in. The entire Texas Attorney General's office is funded by the child support collection matching funds from Title 4D.
So imagine you're a politician. You're like, hey, I want to put in policies that are pro-family, that prevent families from being broken up. And then your conservative attorney general is like, well, can't do that. I just hired some new staffers. You're like, hold on a second. How do those two things connect? I'm not exactly sure how the ankle bone's connected to the elbow bone here. What do you mean? I want to support the family. I want to decrease the divorce rate, lessen the financial burden of child support, increase outcomes for youth. And the attorney general goes, I just hired some staff. Who would pay for that? Our entire office is funded by divorce and child support reimbursement. Oh, okay. So now the attorney general is incentivized to work against the family so you can get that fat cheddar paycheck. I get it.
Texas actually has a law in the Texas government code which requires all judges to rule in cases in such a way to maximize Title 4D reimbursements.
Wow.
Before anything is heard in case. This explains a lot of peculiar things in family court. Family court's known for giving custody to the dysfunctional parent. And they just do it consistently. They do it all the time.
And if we're honest, and we've had our eyes open, we've all seen this, right? You don't get to be my middle age and have lots of friends that get divorced, and you oftentimes see the crazy parent end up with the kids. And it's like, what's going on here?
I watched a case ahead of mine one time, and they gave 2 children back to a heroin addict mother who had successfully passed a drug test after 15 days for the first time.
Oh my God.
Okay.
What was the alternative?
Why would they do that? That makes no sense, right? Everybody goes, nobody in their right mind would do things like, why do they do it? Here's why they do it. The state knows full well it will never collect child support from a heroin addict.
Oh.
And all that matching money, they don't get it.
Got it.
They know that the responsible parent will bankrupt themselves to protect their child and to take care of their child, and they'll get all the matching money for that. So the decision in family court doesn't come down to, are you a fit and willing parent? If that were the case, then in 99% of the cases, you would have both parents getting 50-50 custody because both parents are fit and willing, right? Most abuse is actually much rarer than we think, right?
Yeah.
So abuse and neglect, those are two ends of the spectrum, right? So what they do is they say, which person here will give me the maximum Title IV reimbursement for the state?
Wow.
And that's the person who loses custody so that they pay child support. That's the real calculation that's going on. You mentioned CPS, and if you're looking at laws around this, you need to know about Title IV-E. Title IV-E gives reimbursements for taking children.
Oh, that's not the good one that we want to know anything about. So let's jump into the first moment I get a chance to do this. Let's talk about Augusta Gold. Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often? Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice. If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE, S-A-F-E, to 35052 today. Once again, that's text SAFE to 35052 today. I love precious metal investing. I operate personally on the silver standard, and I operate on the silver standard. I love that. I'm very proud in saying that. And silver has been doing really well right alongside gold. So it's actually kind of fun to watch my measly little post-prison savings slowly build up and seeing the market add quite a bit to it. Okay, so any tool that we give the government, we convert our rights into privileges, we give power to the government, and inevitably that government will use those tools to the maximum extent possible to us, the very people who empowered them with those tools. This is the theme of 1984 by George Orwell. This is the theme of Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is the theme of many brilliant dystopian writers who projected out into the future given government, right? And this constant ebb and flow between freedom and slavery, between liberty and tyranny, right? And there are people who put themselves in these little positions of power, these little fiefdoms, these little bottlenecks where, you know, the juice of liberty runs. There is somebody in Donald Trump's cabinet that is preventing the floodgates of justice and accountability from opening up. This is Peter Ticklin. He happens to be one of my attorneys. And he is Donald Trump's good friend from childhood. They went to school together as kids. And Peter Ticklin has been working on a series of cases. He's been Donald Trump's attorney. He's my attorney. He's been working on the Tina Peters case out in Colorado. He's been working on a handful of other pardon cases, quite a few different cases. And there was a little bit of kind of dour news that the J6 community got over the weekend, that essentially not good things were happening in DC with regards to January 6th disclosures and settlement and stuff like that. Well, Peter Ticklin, who's part of this attorney group that I'm working with, he got on with on Lindell TV with Emerald Robinson and shared who the bottleneck is.
Unfortunately, we're not getting the cooperation that we need. The one that is running things now in the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi sits at the head of it, but the COO, so to speak, the person who actually runs it, is Todd Blanche, and Todd Blanche is failing on all measures. Because of him, we haven't had a pardon granted since May. Because of him, he wants the J6ers to not be compensated for all that we put them through. Because of him, we're not getting the things that we need for Dominion machines, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this guy used to be, until January 4th, 2024, he was a Democrat, a registered Democrat. And then he represented Donald Trump on the Stormy Daniels case that any Democrat would have done the same job. But I don't know that this leopard ever changed its spots, because for some reason, everything that needs to be going forward in order to make Donald Trump's presidency work is being stalled intentionally by this man. And it's not because of ineptitude. This is a smart guy. This is a very capable guy. And it's not because he's not capable. It's because he's intentionally doing things the opposite of what Donald Trump has ordered.
When I heard this news come out yesterday that Peter Ticklin had done this interview, and then he did a subsequent interview on War Room, which I'm going to play here in just a moment as well, I was very heartened to hear him say it, right? Todd Blanche is a problem with this, and this. These are Donald Trump initiatives. J6 settlement, free Tina Peters, get after the Dominion voting machines. Basically, Todd Blanche, in some regard, is acting as an obstructionist when it comes to the 2020 revelations. Okay, that's a big deal, right? This reminds me so much of in Trump 1.0, Pat Cipollone, who was the White House general counsel, that was constantly getting in the way. He was constant. Sidney Powell, you can't be a special, what do they call it? Special prosecutor, whatever, special counsel. Oh, I don't know the paperwork. Oh, we can't let Mike Lindell in the office. Oh, Patrick Byrne, he's crazy, right? Pat Cipollone at the end was basically, he had his job all lined up. He knew where he was going, and he just wanted to block the Trump administration to the last minute. Now we've got this new guy, Todd Blanche. I didn't know a lot about him, Okay. But now I'm starting to find out more. So here, Peter Ticklin goes into a little bit more detail how Todd Blanche is getting in the way of freeing Tina Peters, what she's going through, and kind of some of the mechanics of all of this.
Things you worked out, and with Todd Blanche, I know there's something going on in justice, and maybe that'll become clear in the next week or so. But the BOP, Bureau of Prisons and state prisons, do swaps or reallocations of people, I think, all the time. The Bureau of Prisons is always in conversations with states. And I think you guys had a alternative that it was just going to be held in that regard, and she was going to get sent to a federal prison. Yet Jared Polis and the governors never get involved really in these things, is my understanding. He stepped into the middle of it and said, no way. Basically, Tina Peters is his hostage, right? And he's going to hold her because he's going to run for president. He's going to make a very big deal about us going after the stolen election of 2020. He's on this new ad where he's running around with his buddy Cox in Utah, and they're trying to come up with a more sensitive way to discuss problems. Does that make sense that he's out there as a spokesman for that when he is specifically the single biggest holdup for either the movement of Tina Peters to the federal prison system and or the release of Tina Peters, who's in her 70s, has had some health issues, and is in a medium security prison in Colorado, in general population, not even in an honor unit, with all the danger that has, and that Polis, who presents himself as just, this wonderful guy that wants the country not to be at each other's throats, that he's personally the one that has deemed that she's gonna be his hostage, sir?
No, I don't believe that. I don't understand it to be the case.
Okay, this is important to understand. And I'm behind the curtain a little bit for you here. The narrative is that Governor Polis, the Democrat governor of Colorado, is holding Tina Peters hostage. Now, while that might be true because he could sign a piece of paper and pardon her, Ticklin is informing that there's more than that Polis hasn't even had a chance to act. This is the bureaucracy of government, right? The governor can't do a pardon unless someone brings him the pardon paperwork, so he's feckless until somebody does, quote, their job. This is the antithesis of how Donald Trump acts, where he'll reach down from the executive position and be like, do your freaking job, right? A little bit different there. But Ticklin clarifies this. It's not the narrative that the right wants to push, that it's all on the governor. In fact, it's Todd Blanche.
Case, and I've been very involved in the process. It never got to the governor. It never got to that point where he can say yes or no, or anybody ever brought it to him. This was scuttled by, my understanding is that after everything was set up, and she could have been released on her birthday. She was 70, by the way, on September 11th, and she could have been transferred on her birthday. Instead, she is still where she is, and I don't think it had anything to do with the governor of the state of Colorado. It could, once he's given an opportunity, but that didn't happen yet.
But you're saying that the BOP didn't even engage, that the paperwork or whatever didn't even make it to Colorado for whatever reason, so the Polis couldn't make that individual decision. If that's the case, right, who's holding it up on our side?
Todd Blanche, the same guy that's holding up all the pardons, which we haven't had since May, a pardon granted. The same guy that's holding up the J6 defendants. He's opposing them for getting any compensation at all. So that's going to be gone if he stays in that seat. This is what's going to happen. He's interfered with our ability to get evidence in regard to the Dominion machines. The man is an intelligent guy, and he's an effective guy. There's no question about that. So I don't get it. I don't understand. It's not like I had a conversation with him and he told me that he decided not to do it.
Okay. So this is watching Ticklin come out and kind of carefully and calmly articulate the problem with Todd Blanche. it's my expectation that that'll break something free in this case. Because remember, these things are integrated. Dominion voting machines, January 6th information and settlement, because the settlement comes after the information shows the entrapment scheme, right? And then Tina Peters. Those are three, and then additional pardons that need to get processed. Those are 4 huge things, all centering around the 2020, and those are restitutions that need to be done for a weaponized government, right? Tina Peters should not be sitting in prison. Dominion machine information should be released. So Todd Blanche is fulfilling that role in our little Swiss watch, right? He's the guy that's preventing the time from being set right. Right. It's more about existing narrative and protecting the institutions and what they've said previously than it is about the truth and moving forward on a solid foundation. That's the way I see it there. So I would expect something to happen with Todd Blanche. I would expect a talking to from the president, something to break free, or potentially him to be relieved of his position. The difference I see from Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 is in Trump 2.0, Trump seems to be pretty ruthless in being like, you're either with the program or you're not, right? Todd Blanche defended him. Clearly, he's been rewarded with this position at the DOJ. But if he is going against things like freeing Tina Peters and she can't make it to the Gold Star Mother event yesterday, I don't think Donald Trump is going to take that lightly if he becomes aware of it, which is why getting on a show like War Room with millions of listeners is such a good thing for Ticklin to do. So I'm really glad he did. The other thing too, in related January 6 news, John Solomon released the story yesterday talking about the 274 plainclothes FBI agents that were sent to the Capitol on January 6th. This is a lot more than the original 23 that Christopher Wray disclosed before.
But I want to turn to something that we broke in the last 72 hours. It began Thursday night with a story on the number of FBI agents who went to the Capitol on January 6, 274 of them, and then came out and said they witnessed a politically biased FBI, that the J6 defendants were treated substantially different than those who committed crimes during the BLM riots of 2020. Today, we were able to provide to the American public.
So it was obvious to the FBI and the people assigned to work these cases at the time they were assigned that they were treating January 6ers differently than 2020 BLM rioters.
2 new FBI documents that Kash Patel has found. One of them is the lab report on the 2 J6 pipe bombs. Remember the pipe bombs found at the DNC and the RNC, the 2 major political party headquarters? There's a really interesting question that those reports raise, which is, how do bombs that had a 1-hour timer sit for 16 hours without going off? The FBI lab report couldn't answer that, though it did confirm that there were 1-hour timers on 16-hour-old bombs. No one can explain what it is, but the mystery got even more severe when we got the main witness interview with the woman who the FBI interviewed, who says she found the Republican National Committee bomb. And she says the story that the FBI is telling, that the bombs were there for 16 hours, can't be true, because she walked by the Republican National Committee bomb site an hour before she found the bomb, and there was no bomb there. Then it suddenly showed up when she came back on her laundry run. She's adamant about it. And also, she said, at the time she saw the bomb, it still had 20 minutes on its timer, something that the FBI lab doesn't acknowledge. What does that mean? We got a lot more questions than we got answers, but at least now, under Kash Patel, the FBI is providing Congress and the American public evidence long denied the American public.
So this pipe bomb story, for anybody who's a January 6 aficionado, you know that this pipe bomb story is like the biggest red flag that January 6 is a fedsurrection of some flavor, right? So you've got up to 1 to 3 pipe bombers walking around. You've got cell phone data that's been corrupted at the CIA level, NSA level of data, right? AT&T is like, we have the data, and CIA is like, no, you don't. So you've got corruption of data at the highest possible levels of technology. Like, zero chance a hacker just went and deleted the pipe bomber's data alone, right? This is clearly an intelligence function to be able to do that type of data deletion at the level that it's done. And on top of that, you have the egg timer, which the timing doesn't work out. 16 hours versus 1 hour versus 20 minutes left versus, right? And then also who found it, this staffer being someone that was like on a security team that could call in, not 911, but call the Capitol Police directly. The whole thing stinks of a setup. And to anybody who watches the timing, and I might get it wrong, but I think the pipe bombs were called in and discovered, and they started the process of evacuating the Capitol about 2 minutes before Ray Epps, James Grant, and his name slips me at the moment, but initiated the initial breach. Okay. It was almost perfect timing, but it was one and then the other. So technically, the pipe bomb obstructed Congress. No one else did, right? Congress was obstructed from that moment on. So I got sent this morning by my dad. Thanks, Dad, for the news blurb. This comes from Fox News. Biden admin put some Americans who resisted mask mandates or were involved in January 6 cases on severe no-fly list. And this is coming from the TSA. Secretary Noem told Fox News she was referring the case to DOJ and for congressional investigation. So what this is the no-fly list. Okay, I was on this list. Woohoo! Not something that everybody gets to check off their bingo card in life. I was on the United States' quiet sky no-fly list. And what happened here, what this news report is saying here, is that the Transportation Secretary Administration of the Department of Homeland Security uncovered the Biden administration placed some Americans who resisted the COVID-19 mask mandate or were involved in the events of January 6 on prolonged TSA watch lists, including some on a no-fly list typically reserved for suspected terrorists. The Fox News Digital acquired the findings on an international investigation conducted by agencies that showed that then President Joe Biden's TSA initiated Operation Freedom to Breathe on September 20th, 2021. Roughly 6 months after CDC relaxed the COVID-19 mask mandate, which targeted Americans who previously resisted mask mandates set forth by the Biden administration. The initiative placed 19 Americans, not a lot, prospectively, 19 Americans on the intensive watch list, with more than half added to the highest severity no-fly list, preventing them from boarding a flight in the U.S. entirely. Even 11 of the individuals remained on watch lists until April 22, when the national mask mandate was lifted by the Biden administration. Biden TSA Administrator David Pekoski and his cronies abused their authority, this is a direct quote, and weaponized the federal government against the very people they were charged with protecting. Homeland Security Kristi Noem told Fox News. Biden's TSA wildly abused their authority, targeting Americans who pose no aviation security risk under the banner of political differences. Noem added, President Trump promised to end the weaponization of government against the American people, and we are making good on that promise. The investigation also concluded that TSA placed roughly 280 individuals involved in the Capitol protests on January 6th on watch lists, including 5 on a no-fly list. I was one of these 280 individuals that was added to this watch list. Guys, I missed a flight. This made air travel unbelievably difficult. Unbelievably difficult. I had to schedule. You think getting to the airport 2 hours early is hard. I was scheduling getting to the airport like 8 hours early and still wondering if I'd make my flight or not, right? And I was being followed around the airports. There's another report, which I'm not including here today, but there happened to be a federal marshal whose wife attended January 6th, didn't go in the Capitol or anything, but she was added to this watch list. Took them almost 2 years to get her off the list, and she was followed by marshals on every flight, often documenting minute by minute things that she was doing. What things she was browsing on her cell phone, they were documenting in their notes. Guys, I spent lots of hours walking around airports because remember I had to get there so early, so I'd spend quite a bit of time walking around. They were being tracked. Any power you give the government, hey, we want you to protect us from terrorism. Okay, great. But when we leave to them the ability to define what terrorism is, you might find yourself a curfew breaker on a no-fly list. In fact, this is exactly what they said. Another TSA official added, employee also expressed worry over watch listing individuals allegedly involved in the Capitol protest, saying most individuals who were arrested are, quote, technically curfew breakers, end quote. And that, quote, I hope we don't end up adding them to a watch list on just the arrest, according to an internal email obtained by Fox News. Internal email said the TSA mainly relied on George Washington University program of extremism academic database and social media rather than traditional sources like the FBI and local police. So the TSA was adding people to this watch list based on George Washington's University program on extremism. So George Washington University was creating a database. So basically you've got like PhD, master students, and TAs deciding whether or not I am a terrorist based on my social media presence and my attendance at the Capitol on January 6th. Another individual, the wife of a federal air marshal who was also not present at the Capitol on January 6th, but was apparently in town, was added to a watch list due to additional bad intelligence from the Biden FBI. Americans allegedly involved in the events of January 6th who were not tied to the unrelated individual incidents were removed from various watch lists on June 28th, 2021. A majority of Americans allegedly involved in the events of January 6, 2021, who were placed on watch lists, were removed from them by June 28, 2021, though some who had been charged remain watch listed until they were cleared. I was not cleared. I was pardoned, released from prison, sitting in a Kansas City airport, trying to get my boarding pass cleared. And not only was I not cleared, but they added my wife to the list. My wife flew to Missouri, no problem. But when she got her return ticket, she'd been added to the watch list because she was flying with me. These are the types of abuses. The Third Amendment, no quartering soldiers in your house. You don't think about how powerful these tools are until they're used against you. Hey, it should be common sense. Maybe not put people on a, quote, no-fly list who've simply been alleged to have committed a trespassing violation, right? Don't put people on the watch list that don't have crimes related to international travel and terrorism. We gave them this tool to, quote, prevent terrorists, and then they stretch the definition of terrorism to include me. Do you know what time it is yet? Do you understand why I'm motivated enough to get up every morning early to come do this podcast, to talk into this microphone, sometimes giggle with Ron when he's here, right? And talk about these topics? It's because I care about the world my children grow up in. Would to God generations previous to me had cared a little bit more, especially the ones that maybe had, voting power around 2001. Okay, when the Patriot Act came into being, we empowered our government with this massive amount of tools, surveillance, right? You just heard a second ago about all the capacity to monitor every square earth of the planet. Maybe right now we should be thinking of a Bill of Rights with things like, do not quarter soldiers in our houses. We should maybe add to the Third Amendment some things like, I don't know, don't add me to a no-fly list unless I've been convicted through due process by a jury of my peers. Maybe I should be notified so I can go through appeals. Maybe, if you're going to monitor my digital stuff through warrant and subpoena, maybe you do have to notify me of the warrant. No more secret warrants, no more secret subpoenas, right? I don't know, but we should probably start thinking about this stuff because clearly we're going down a path where we're getting totally whitewashed. This is Tucker Carlson with the founder of WikiLeaks, who's kind of, from my understanding, he's kind of like disenfranchised from WikiLeaks, but he's talking about a blacklist that WikiLeaks has for news sources. So in a world where the government gets empowered to use the awesome tools that we granted against us, on top of that, you have private organizations, news organizations that are limiting the amount of information you can get, thus changing the world perspective that the vast majority of people walk around with.
Can I go on the Wikipedia site and find out what's blacklisted?
Sure. Just type in perennial sources Wikipedia into any search engine, and the first result will be this page.
And it names them, the blacklist.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's all color coded. Green.
Do you have the list? Do you mind if I do that really quick?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm testing your thesis. So it's perennial. Source.
Yeah.
List. Wikipedia, right?
While you're doing that, I'll give you some fully approved sources. New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, The Nation, Mother Jones, GLAAD.
Come on!
These are all green-lit, fully green-lit. Okay, the blacklisted sources are Breitbart, Daily Caller, Epoch Times, Fox News, New York Post, The Federalist. So you can't use those as sources on Wikipedia.
Okay, so think about that for just a second, right? He read off the news sources that they can use that are whitelisted. Mother Jones, whitelisted, totally approved source, nothing but truth. Federalist, can't use it. Breitbart, can't use it. It's pretty stunning here. Wikipedia, right? The number one provider of information.
Oh, wow. Well, they've got, of course. So is red, I'm looking at it now.
Yes. Red means it's blacklisted. You cannot cite it as a source of facts. Maybe as a source of opinion, but generally that works out.
Anti-Defamation League gets a green light.
Only for some. Yes, if you're actually reporting about the Arab
Israeli conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
You may not cite them.
Interesting.
So you can't find the Jewish perspective on the war so easily anymore on
Blaze
Wikipedia.
Media. Catholic hierarchy.
So he's going on to basically, they'll continue going through kind of this blacklist. But essentially, when you're using Wikipedia, you're limited into what information you can use. And one of the green listed, right, one of the white listed, whatever it is, it's green lit, sources of information that go through for everything except for the war in Palestine is the ADL. Okay. Now, this is the American Defense League, or the, I hope I didn't butcher that, the Defense League, whatever it is. Okay. And they're primarily taking on this anti-Semitism bent, right? They're trying to go after anti-Semitism. This is their, he's the president. Oh, this is their CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt. In his own words, he compares Christianity to a virus, as it was the roots of anti-Semitism. This is a approved source for Wikipedia, right? Oh, you're probably going to want to get some sound there.
It exists. Anti-Semitism is a bit of like a virus. And like some viruses, it exists in the kind of body politic and it's dormant, like chickenpox. Mm-hmm. You get chickenpox as a young person, and then after the kind of inflammation subsides, it's still in you. And it can manifest again when you're older because of stress or age as shingles. Although you can get inoculated and you can prevent that from happening. So I think anti-Semitism is similar. It's like this contagion. It's as old as time, right? We face it for thousands of years. First, it was, after the death of Christ, there were these accusations that the Jews killed Christ and that the Jews weren't a real religion because we didn't accept Christ and then we didn't accept Muhammad. So you have this, the Jewish religion isn't legitimate, and that was the basis for the Crusades, which is at Tish B'Av, which remembers the expulsion. We had inquisitions. We had all these horrible things. And then after the Age of Reason, it was, maybe, and they realized that the sun doesn't revolve around the earth and the earth isn't flat. Then it was, maybe Judaism is okay as a religion, but it's the Jewish race that isn't legitimate. And then we saw kind of anti-Semitism metastasize into this kind of race-based form of hate, which of course exploded with the Shoah. And then after the tragedy of that, the injustice of that was exposed, people then said, it's not that their religion is illegitimate or their race is illegitimate. Now it's the Jewish state that's illegitimate. And we see that now in the form of anti-Zionism, which is anti-Semitism.
So it's a mind virus. Well, the Christians are a mind virus. They just blame the Jews for everything. This is that zeitgeist. Whitewashing is the only thing I can consider this, right? It's just constant whitewashing of the zeitgeist and what's real and what's really going on there. And like he says, right, anti-Semitism, everything he says is correct. He's right. Jews have been the brunt of a lot of stuff. They've been blamed for things that they got nothing to do with. There was a really good clip that I was going to play from Dennis Prager from a couple of weeks ago, where he talks about, listen, I'm Jewish and George Soros Jewish. We have nothing in common, right? And he goes on to explain a couple other things where there's like, look, you can't have the Jews on both ends of the spectrum. Like there's a lot of just anti-Semitic hate. I do absolutely agree with that. But by the same token, right, this is the don't become the thing you hate. Don't complain about other groups being derogatory towards your own group while you turn around and kind of do the same thing, right? It's that same lesson that we have to learn, which brings us to our next ad. It's NFL time. NFL tune in. Hey, football fanatics, are you ready for some primetime NFL action? Tune in to Westwood One for all the gridiron glory you crave, from jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays. Don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One. You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood One Sports app, on westwoodonesports.com, via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports. If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood One. Cool. I actually really like doing those ads. They're just kind of fun to throw in there. I don't know, kind of fun. Okay, we've got a couple more minutes, and then we are going to have to jump onto private because I have got to finish my private streaming today. It's the last day of the month. Hopefully we don't have any internet issues with that. Okay, so this is CEO Jack Dorsey, and this is a little bit of a longer piece, and it's he talks about how you are the product. This is important for us to understand the logic of a thing. So we started out with RFK Jr., and he's talking about any power you give the government, they will ultimately use it against you in the worst possible way you can imagine. This is like, you know, the sun rises in the east kind of consistency. It's eventually going to happen. And this is Jack Dorsey talking about when it comes to the internet and algorithms, you are the product. Okay. You are the product. And he only sees one solution to that. That's the blockchain and Bitcoin, where you can impose on the system instead of the system imposing on you. These are, you know, you can say a lot about Jack Dorsey, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't have a lot of love for him, but he is someone who is on the front lines of tech, and he's on the front. He used to be a free speech absolutist. And let's just say when he talks about this stuff, he's enough in the conversation and has seen behind the curtain enough that we have to put some weight on what he says. It's the same thing with Elon Musk, same thing with Peter Thiel. Any of these people that have the levers of power and influence, it's important to know what they're thinking, right? Because these guys are the trendsetters.
If you really think about, and I built one of those services, if you really think about what you're doing when you're posting that, it's not just reaching your audience. You're actually you're actually doing work for that company for free. Every time you hit the heart, every time you like a post, every time you retweet something, that's a signal to an algorithm, which then takes that and a bunch of other variables and uses that as a way to push into someone else's feed. And all of these algorithms predominantly are only focused on increasing the number of impressions. And the reason why is because that increases the number of advertising revenue for them. It has nothing to do with you. And if you just if you just observe a little bit and you watch someone on their phone, and there's a bunch of you on the phone in the downtime, and you have Instagram open, you have Twitter open, X, Threads, Blue Sky, maybe not Blue Sky, but whatever it is, you actually just watch them and they're scrolling, tap, tap, scrolling, tap, tap, scrolling, tap, tap. That company has successfully made you an employee without paying you a thing. And we need, if we value what we believe is the value of these services, which is to broadcast to the world and to broadcast our information, our lessons, our learnings, our stories to someone that's going to care about it, we need to own that protocol layer. That protocol layer needs to be permissionless. I should not have to ask Google on whether to build a feature or not. I should not be reliant upon Google's algorithm to tell me what I should pay attention to, because they're programming you. And they can change that algorithm at any point and program you in a different way. And they have in the past, and they will continue to do so. So do you want to live in that world? Do you want to continue to give it your attention? Do you want to continue to work for free? Or do you want to own something where you can build on top of it and you can control the media, you can control your story, you can control your narrative, along with all the other people that are interested in unleashing themselves from this dynamic that we've created and that we've been trapped into. So I can't think of anything more exciting than the fact that we have money that's completely permissionless, exchange of value, And we have now social media and generally media, which is completely permissionless, which is another exchange of value. And there's another big thing coming. It's on the horizon. We're hearing a lot about it right now, which is artificial intelligence. And you're seeing that it's not just the money that was centralized. It's not just the media that has been centralized, but now intelligence is centralized. And intelligence isn't your IQ score. Intelligence is actually all of the collective intelligence of the people around you, all the potential you have for learning and actually experimenting and sharing that knowledge. Do you want that intelligence to be locked up in 5 companies that are dictated by 5 CEOs that are not voted in, but that can determine, again, how you perceive intelligence, how you perceive the world, and actually what you do because you read those particular things? So decentralizing and making permissionless AI models, LLMs, agent systems, is something that we need to focus on. Everything that we're doing with Bitcoin, everything that we're doing with social media has to be applied to this new model, which is intelligence. And if it's not, then again, you are the product. You are doing free work for these models, and you will be displaced. Your contribution will become irrelevant. And that scares me the most. Yet, we have proven over the past 16 years with Bitcoin that another model exists. The whole world values, some of the biggest companies in the world, Wall Street, BlackRock, actually values. And they didn't choose to get in immediately. They got in because they had to, because the people kept developing it, and this thing is not going away, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And we have the potential, everyone in this room, if you make the decision, I'm not going to contribute purely to corporate media or corporate intelligence or corporate money anymore. I'm going to do the hard thing, and it's extremely challenging right now because it's not accessible, it's not usable, it's confusing as hell. But I'm gonna do the work, I'm gonna learn it, I'm gonna teach it, and I'm gonna sacrifice my time and energy to do something that's hard at the moment, because if I do so, it compounds and more people can use it, and it becomes more the standard. So it's really important that we make that decision and that we potentially remove these apps from our lives, or we at least bias towards other solutions that the people actually own, that no one company, no one government can corrupt or change the direction of, and that we can, just because we built something that people value and people go that direction, and another someone builds something of different value and people can find it there. So that's the important thing about all these technologies. Sorry, my answer was so long, but I had to get all that out. It's exciting. Like, it just keeps getting.
Okay, so he is saying much of the same theme that we've hit on for 5 years now. You vote with your dollars, your eyes, you vote with your clicks, your dollars, and your eyeballs, right? The algorithm is either feeding you or you're feeding the algorithm. Either the system is happening to you or you're happening to the system, right? Being conscientious of the fact that you're training AI, you're training the control grid. That is also one of the motivations why I do this show the way I do it. I figure we're training the AI, right? No better way to let the AI not recognize conservative voices or conservative opinions or the peasant's perspective than to not tell the AI the peasant's perspective. So to the extent that I'm able to fill the internet with some vibrations and some bits of information one way or the other, I'm doing that. Okay, but he's absolutely right. Take the apps off your phone. Interesting position here. Hey, I want to be a social media influencer and run a podcast. Stop listening to social media. But I practice what I preach. I don't have the social media apps on my phone. I don't have Facebook on my phone, Instagram, any of them. The only one I have is X, right? Everything, and then Telegram messaging app, right? I keep it very, very basic. Now, I've been on the other side of the government's weight. I've seen the subpoenas that come back for your data, and frankly, you'd be wise to be less interesting. Okay, have less logins, have less places that you're being attached to, because what we have coming could be kind of rough. And then again, this goes back to what RFK said. Any power we give them, they're going to use against us. So I'm going to play this Glenn Beck piece. actually, let me just double check here. I need to, okay. I'm gonna do this. We have to jump over to private. Got to do it. I got to get my time in over there. This is the last day of the month. So we've got quite a few viewers right now. I'm glad you guys are all here with me. For those of you that can stick over because you have Rumble Premium, please do. For those of you that don't, oh, I'm so sorry. We'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. We are going to be going over UK's digital law, Glenn Beck's perspective on it. We're going to be getting into the government shutdown that's upcoming and a couple other really good things. I actually have quite a few videos. We're going to get a good solid 20 plus minutes of private streaming in. So for those of you that can join us over there, I look forward to seeing you. For those of you that can't, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, but become Rumble Premium subscribers. So we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow, and the rest of you, we'll see you in just a moment. Just a second. Okay, we are private. Seems like any